Follow on Instagram and Twitter at __ Beyond the Game and subscribe on YouTube at Beyond the Game with Ro and the Joe Bros.
All right, guys, welcome in to another episode of Beyond the Game with Ro and the Joe Bros.
Boys are back.
What's up, y'all?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got a special guest for you guys today. Brad Szalach, the commercial content manager for Vegas Insider. Joe B's boy in the building.
Of course.
Yes, sir. Joe B, I'm going to let you run point on this interview, and me and Joe M will hop in with some questions that we have.
All right, cool. So, yeah, basically, just going to pick your brain on sports betting, inform the audience about what it is, how it works, and everything like that. So, my first question to you would be, like, when did you know that, like, legal sports betting was going to be mainstream? Was there, like, a moment? Was there, like, when you saw a bunch of states go legal, when you saw Jersey, anything like that? Or
yeah,
is there, like, a moment that sticks out for you?
Yeah, no, for me, it wasn't necessarily, I didn't keep up with legal states, like, when I first started, because it didn't really matter to me until it became my job. But, like, when Bleacher Report first launched BR betting, and I started seeing mainstream, like, videos of people, like, doing that, that's when I realized, like, this is going to be big. ESPN finally bought into sports betting, and that's another, like, big thing. Like, Disney and ESPN, like, both combined. And I think, like, when these social people on, like, social media are getting into it, I think that's when I thought that it's definitely going to take off.
Yeah, so Brad, for somebody that's just starting to get into sports betting, like I'll totally be honest, like 6 months ago, I didn't know anything about betting. I had to do like a crash course. So for somebody out there like me, for example, what would be like the basics of sports betting? What is a parlay, for example? What is a spread?
Yeah.
What is a line?
First, but like before, like we hop into spread and stuff, I feel like the easiest thing for a beginner to learn is like just money lines. And essentially that's just who wins the game. Not everybody is going to want to bet or just who wants to win because they don't know the odds per se, but that's probably the easiest term in sports betting is money line, and that's just straight up who wins. The spread's like a little more, it's harder to explain. It's really confusing when you see the minuses and pluses because some people assume plus means that, oh, they're supposed to win, but in reality it's minus. So I'll just give an example for tonight. So tonight the Colts play the Patriots and the Colts are minus 2.5.
Okay.
The spread means that they need to cover by 3 points. The Colts need to win the game by at least 3 points for you to win your bet. Plus 2.5 on the flip side would mean if the Patriots come within 2 points, they can lose by 2 points, they can lose by 1 point, or they can win the game. That would be the best ideal situation. If you bet that, then you would win your bet. So essentially it's just if you want to play the underdog, you don't always have to bet them winning the game. The spread is there if you think they're going to keep it close within those numbers.
Okay. And what would be
a push? That wouldn't work tonight, for example, but so say the spread was exactly 3. If the Colts win by exactly a field goal, that would be a push. So if you bet minus 3 or plus 3, you're just getting your money back, which in my book, a push is a win. So it would be a win for me.
Ah, very nice.
Brad, I want to ask you about your background. What made you want to get involved in the betting industry? What really enticed you to go down this career path? Yeah.
So I started betting out of high school, which you're not supposed to bet till you're 21, but I started doing it. That's when I learned it. And I wouldn't say I'm addicted by any means. It's like you should really practice safe gambling. Like you should know your limits and use 1% of your bankroll, this and that. But being like within the industry, I think it's obviously growing and I think it's very new. And for the younger generation to get into that, especially while it's growing, I thought that was very interesting. And that's kind of why I followed it. It's very fun. If you like sports and you want to put $10 on it here and there, it just makes it that much more interesting. So that's really what it boils down to is also you're winning money. So
take me through, it's legalized now, but take me through back in your day. Did you have a guy behind the alley? Like, how did they work? Like, who did you go to?
No, when I got into it, it still wasn't that old school. It's evolved. I still, to this day, use Bovada. I know now it's legal. So in Michigan and other places, they use FanDuel, DraftKings, this and that. But when I first started, it was strictly Bovada and these offshore websites, and you would have to do it through Bitcoin or different cryptos. So from 2017 on, I was using Bitcoin, depositing it with it and having it in my wallet. And that was the easiest way at the time. A lot of people did have bookies, but to find a reliable one's very tough. One that won't take your money.
I never even heard of all that stuff. Obviously, I've heard of Bitcoin. I've never heard of Bovada or anything like that. Like, I'm still new to the game. I'm just getting into it right now. So
yeah, there's like a couple big ones. It's like betonline.ag and Bovada. Those are like the two big offshore bookies. And obviously there's legal states now. And in Florida, it was the Hard Rock. So that was nice to have that. But if you are in a non-legal state, I'm not going to advocate for it, but there are options out there. And obviously Bitcoin's popular now, so it's much easier than it was in 2017 to get your hands on Bitcoin.
Got it. Okay.
I had a question. Like, let's say heading into a typical like an NFL Sunday, or heading into just like a game that you want to bet. Like, how much research do you do? Do you go super in depth with it, or do you just look at Roto like people do for fantasy? Like, how do you go about like your prep for NFL Sunday, for example?
Yeah, I don't really have a secret sauce. Like, there's only a couple things I like to look at, and a lot of it has came through where I work too. So there's these things called splits, which it's very in depth for the average bettor. Nobody would look at it and understand the numbers, but essentially the things I look at are like where the money for the public is putting their money, and where the sharp bettors, like the people that get the lines right when they release the week before, like where they're putting their money. And I look for different lines at different places, and that's where I base my information off of. Now, I don't go crazy. Like, I don't look at like they're the number 30 defense in the league. Like, I think they're going to score this and that. It's good to look at that stuff if you're new to it, but I really just look at the splits every week because that's like the sportsbooks know something, and when they know something that the public doesn't, it's good to be on the sportsbook side because they're there for a reason. They make money. So I could give an example, but I don't want to confuse newer people that are listening to this, but there are a lot of numbers that go into it.
I have another one real quick. Like back when Hard Rock was legal here for a short period of time, I was looking into like all I ever wanted to do was bet on underdogs because I felt like that's where I could get my most bang for my buck. So I guess this may sound like a naive question, but what's like the benefit? I guess you'd bet a favorite if you 100% like convinced that they're going to win, but if you're not going to win that much, what really is what's the main draw for that? You know what I'm saying? If I can win 10 times my money by betting on a dog, why would I just sweat out a favorite? Kind of either covering, or if I do money line.
Yeah, I think if you're attracted to underdogs, that's where you should take the spread, because they could win the game and you're happy, but they could cover the spread. It's also it's funny because you say that people bet the underdogs. It's like when there's boxing fights, you see almost like 80% of the money's always like on underdogs, because people are like, why would I bet minus 600? Which, for people that don't know, if a line is minus 600, that would be, you'd have to bet $600 to win back 100 profit. So it's like, who has the money to do that? So it's like, yeah, like go ahead, I'll throw it on the underdog. And that's different for boxing. But when you're in like watching football and stuff, like that's where you should really look into the spread for the underdogs and not necessarily the money line. And there's always value with the numbers. Unless you really do think the other team has an edge, then it's useful to take the money line. And that always happens every week. But to pick the right ones is very hard.
Speaking of boxing, what's the line? What's the current line on the Paul and Woodley fight tonight?
Yeah, it's Jake Paul is minus 260. So
minus 260.
Yeah, so 260 to win 100, or I'm not good at math, so it'd be like 100 to win like 40 something, I believe.
He's the favorite, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, where we're going after this podcast, right?
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bet on the underdog. Bet on Woodley. No, or you could do it by rounds too. That's the fun part about these
boxing,
different things.
right?
Is you could bet on him winning the second round, and it'd be like 100 to win 800.
And also one thing that I learned 6 months ago when I was like researching this stuff, there's like prop bets too. What exactly does that entail?
That's like the Super Bowl and stuff like that.
Okay, that's strictly like Super Bowl.
No. You can
not strictly, but they do it a lot.
Like,
Super Bowl. But anything though.
Yeah. I mean, like prop bets for the Super Bowl, like insane. Like you could bet on how long the national anthem is, but they do have props for every game. Yeah, it's just it just depends on the book. I'll be honest, Hard Rock, when it was legal, they did not have great props compared to other apps. But yeah, like tonight, like you can bet on anything from who scores the third touchdown in the game to, I don't know, like you could bet head-to-heads, like who has the most rushing yards, like Jonathan Taylor versus Damian Harris, which I don't even think he's playing. But yeah, there's props for every game. NBA.
Or you could do Wentz gets over 200 yards or something like that. It depends on, they're all different. Like there might be a different number, but like you can bet, I think, go over under a certain yardage or first touchdown, second touchdown, stuff like that.
It almost seems unlimited.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Real quick, no, you're good. Can you like describe like what a parlay is? And also, in addition to that, I was like as a follow-up, what is like the craziest parlay you've seen, either like that was built or that hit?
Yeah. So parlay is essentially when you pick multiple straight bets into one. So a straight bet is meaning, so say I had one team winning the game, that's one bet, and then there was another game on that Saturday, and I wanted both of them to win, and it would increase my odds and my payout. So you take two favorites that are minus 200, and you put them into one parlay, and it becomes almost even money. So 20 to win 20, instead of paying the odds and the juice on two big favorites to win. It's very risky. A lot of new players like parlays because the money and the payout is nice to see, but they don't hit That's how Vegas makes their money. That's how every state makes their money. But I think the smartest thing to do with parlays is take I limit myself to 2 teams. I don't go any higher than 2-team parlays, and I take who I really do think is going to win, like my locks of the night, quote unquote. But yeah, I've seen some crazy ones. Just recently, I think Vegas Insider posted it, or it was VI or it was Bleacher Report, one of the two. But it was like $1 to win like 800,000, and I think it was on every single bowl game that's coming up in the next 2 weeks, which that's 50+ games. So good luck.
Man. So you're telling me it wouldn't be smart to do a parlay on the New York teams this weekend? The Knicks, the Giants, the Jets.
No, yeah, I mean that's a free team. That's not that bad.
That wouldn't be smart.
No, not with the Giants, but
well, not with the Knicks either, or the Jets.
No, you're right. Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah. I limit myself to 2, but every now and then, who cares? Every Sunday, I'll put $10 on every single game and just wish for the $10,000 payout.
There you go.
Brad, what's the bet you've made that stands out to you the most, either good or bad, that you just remember that's memorable to you?
Yeah, from like back when, I can't really remember what parlays I've hit, but in recent years, especially this year, I had a good chunk of change on the Bucks to win the Super Bowl, and I actually posted my recap recently for the year, and plus 140. I think at that point I put almost $1,000 on it, so it was a good payout. So it was like $1,000 to win 1,400, so I ended up with almost $3K at the time. And that's like, I would never do that. Like my typical bet is like $30. Like it was very stupid, but you should not do that.
It worked out.
It did. I got lucky. Yes. But I do think if you're wanting to do something like that, you should take advantage of the sign-up bonuses that these companies give you because it's play money. But
yeah, that's true.
Yep.
And then leads into the kind of last question I had for you was like, what advice would you give to a newcomer to sports betting? You touched on it a little bit throughout, this interview, but like, if there's anything else that you maybe haven't mentioned that comes to mind.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of different things that just like will come up here and there when you first get into it. Like number one, I would say like stick to straight bets if you want to learn how to do it first, and you should manage your bankroll. I think the rule of thumb is 1% of your like play money or whatever income that's disposable to you. Don't go overboard. A lot of people do that, and then they find themselves chasing a hole that they've dug too deep. Do your research. Don't bet on teams that you like, which I went against myself on the Bucks, but don't bet on your home. Joe, or you guys are all from Miami. I wouldn't tell you to every night bet on the Heat because you're going to be biased towards it. That's one of the big things that people do. But yeah, I don't know. Just they'll learn throughout the way, like people, but you just got to stay confident in your picks.
Makes a lot of sense.
All right. Special thanks to our guest, Brad Szalach with Vegas Insider. And this is Beyond the Game with Row and the Joe Bros. Until next time, guys.
Peace.
Thanks for having me.
Follow on Instagram and Twitter at __Beyond the Game, and subscribe on YouTube at Beyond the Game with Row and the Joe Bros.